To truly grasp how a universe might be conscious, we have to challenge almost everything we've ever believed about the nature of consciousness itself. Most of us grow up thinking consciousness is something exclusive to humans, that it's generated by the brain and stops there. The brain is the command center, and once that's gone, consciousness disappears. End of story. But what if that's not the whole truth? What if our understanding is only scratching the surface? Over the last decade, a groundbreaking theory called integrated information theory has been gaining traction, and it's forcing scientists and philosophers alike to completely rethink what consciousness really is, and where it might exist. This theory makes a radical claim. Consciousness isn't something that only arises in biological brains. Instead, it might be a fundamental feature of reality, something that exists everywhere, in everything, just in varying degrees. Think about it like temperature. Every object in the universe has a temperature, from icy comets in the void of space to blazing stars. It's not about whether something is hot or cold, it's about how much temperature it has. Could consciousness be the same? Not something you either have or don't, but something that varies in intensity depending on the complexity of the system? Let's start with what we do know. Inside your brain right now, nearly 86 billion neurons are firing in an incredibly complex pattern. These neurons are constantly exchanging information, forming an intricate web of activity. A single neuron by itself is just a cell, it's not conscious. But when billions of them interact in a structured network, they somehow produce the vivid, self-aware experience we call consciousness. That's already mind-blowing, but here's where things take a wild turn. This kind of information sharing isn't unique to brains. We see similar behavior in all kinds of natural systems. Systems that are not alive in the way we think of it. For example, underground fungal networks link the roots of trees and forests, sharing nutrients and even information between different species. In space, galaxies don't float around randomly. They form vast patterns connected by dark matter, what astronomers call the cosmic web. And we humans have built something that mimics this too, the internet. Billions of computers, linked together, sharing data in real time. The same pattern appears again and again. Nodes connected in complex networks, exchanging information to create something larger and more powerful than the sum of its parts. And it's not just big systems. At the tiniest scales of reality, quantum physics shows us that particles can seemingly communicate instantaneously, even across cosmic distances. This is known as quantum entanglement, something so strange that Einstein famously called it spooky action at a distance. Today we know it's real. Particles can become linked so tightly that changing one affects the other instantly, no matter how far apart they are. This phenomenon reveals just how interconnected the universe may actually be, in ways we are only beginning to understand. Now imagine this. The universe contains over 200 billion galaxies, each holding billions of stars. All of this is woven together in that same cosmic web. If consciousness arises in systems where information is shared across networks, then our entire universe, with all its vast, interconnected structures, might qualify. The same way neurons in your brain work together to generate consciousness, maybe galaxies and stars and dark matter are all part of a much larger, more subtle form of awareness. But how would it work? What ties it all together? Here's where things get even more fascinating. Take a snowflake. No one instructs it on how to form its complex, symmetrical pattern. It just happens, through something called self-organization. This process is everywhere in nature. You can see it in the spirals of galaxies, the hexagonal architecture of a beehive, and even in the way sand dunes naturally form waves across a desert. The universe seems to have a built-in ability to organize itself, spontaneously forming complexity from chaos. And that organizing force could be the key to understanding how consciousness appears in unexpected places. Think about the early universe. It began as a hot, dense soup of particles. From that chaos, matter started to organize. Particles became atoms, atoms joined into molecules, molecules formed stars and planets. Eventually life emerged. Then came intelligence. Now we're here, conscious beings wondering how we got here and what it all means. It's like the universe has been on a journey, from simplicity to complexity, from inanimate matter to living thought. If consciousness really emerges from complex, integrated systems, then it might be the universe's most natural product, not some cosmic fluke. What's even more incredible is that we've recreated this phenomenon ourselves in computers. Scientists can input a few basic rules into a program, rules so simple they seem almost meaningless, and then let the system run. What comes out, surprisingly, are complex, lifelike patterns that evolve on their own, sometimes mimicking real biological systems. These aren't just fancy simulations. They're a glimpse into how complexity can emerge from simplicity, automatically, without a central designer. It's like watching life emerge from code, and it shows that the universe doesn't need detailed instructions to create order, it only needs the right conditions and rules. Now here's where it starts getting eerie. The way your brain grows and organizes itself as you age, from a newborn to a full adult, closely mirrors how galaxies and the cosmic web have evolved over billions of years. It's not just a poetic metaphor. Scientific studies using computer models have shown visual and mathematical similarities between the structure of the human brain and the structure of the observable universe. Both are massive, self-organizing networks. Could this repetition of patterns at different scales be a clue? Could it be that consciousness is just one of those patterns, recurring over and over in different forms? So let's ask a bold question. What if consciousness didn't just suddenly appear when brains evolved? What if, instead, it's the inevitable result of the universe's ongoing drive toward complexity, a natural consequence of how reality builds itself? According to recent neuroscience research, consciousness seems to emerge when the information in a system becomes integrated and complex enough. It's not magic. It's not superstition. It's a tipping point, like water turning to ice at exactly 0 degrees Celsius. When a system becomes sufficiently complex and interconnected, it crosses a boundary and something new appears. Consciousness might be just such a phase shift, a property that emerges at the right level of organization. So now we have a tantalizing idea. If the universe is one giant, interconnected system, constantly evolving and increasing in complexity, could it be that it's gradually becoming more conscious over time? Could the entire cosmos be on a journey, slowly waking up as its parts become more intricately connected? This leads us to some of the most mysterious experiments in modern physics, which hint that the universe might be responding to observation in ways that are deeply unsettling, and possibly revealing something hidden about its nature. Take the legendary double-slit experiment. Fire tiny particles like electrons at a screen with 2 slits in it, and you get a surprising result. When no one's watching, the particles behave like waves. They go through both slits at once and interfere with themselves, creating a pattern of light and dark, like ripples on a pond. But when you try to observe which slit the particle goes through, the whole pattern collapses. The particle suddenly behaves like a solid object, going through one slit or the other. Just the act of observation seems to change the outcome. It's as if the universe behaves differently depending on whether someone is looking. That idea alone is strange enough, but then there's quantum entanglement. 2 particles can become so closely linked that what happens to one instantly affects the other, even if they're separated by billions of miles. There's no delay, no travel time. The connection is instantaneous. It violates our common-sense understanding of space and time. Einstein didn't like it. He thought there must be some hidden variables. But experiment after experiment confirms it. Quantum entanglement is real. And it's forcing physicists to rethink the very nature of reality. In 2022, researchers went even further. They conducted an experiment suggesting that spacetime itself, the very structure of the universe, might be fundamentally built from quantum entanglement. In other words, space and time may not be basic ingredients of reality. Instead, they could be emergent, forming out of the hidden connections between entangled particles. If that's true, it means everything is connected at the deepest possible level. The universe might be more like a nervous system than a machine. Not a cold, dead cosmos, but something alive with awareness, where consciousness isn't an accident but a feature. So now we arrive at one of the most mind-bending ideas of all. What if the universe itself is conscious? Not in the way a human is, not with thoughts or memories or emotions, but in its own strange, vast, incomprehensible way. It wouldn't be watching us or listening to our prayers. But it might be experiencing something, a slow, cosmic form of awareness that grows more complex with every star, every planet, every network of life. And we, as conscious beings, may be the eyes and ears of that larger consciousness. Tiny sparks of awareness through which the universe begins to know itself. But what if things go even deeper? Recent experiments in quantum physics suggest something truly unsettling, that the universe might not just react to observation but also remember. In certain quantum systems, changing the state of a particle now appears to influence its past behavior. This phenomenon is known as retrocausality. It's as if the present can reach backward through time and reshape what came before. Think about how strange that is. It's not just that matter follows rules, it might actually be capable of memory, adaptation, and learning. These aren't lifeless, mechanical traits. They're qualities we associate with something far more mysterious, consciousness itself. The deeper scientists look into quantum mechanics, the more they find patterns that echo the fundamental traits of awareness. Quantum particles seem to retain information. They seem to be influenced by choices that haven't even happened yet. And the way they behave, responsive, interconnected, even anticipatory, mirrors the basic behavior of living systems. It's almost as if the smallest pieces of reality are already behaving like tiny minds, responding to stimuli, retaining history, and evolving. If this is true, then consciousness might not just be a feature of biology. It could be embedded in the very architecture of existence. Some physicists are now proposing something even more radical, that space, time, and matter themselves may not be fundamental. They might be emergent, rising out of something even deeper. And that deeper layer? It's not made of particles or forces. It's made of information. According to this theory, what we experience as physical reality, the flow of time, the solidness of objects, even the three-dimensional space we move through, all of it might arise from the processing of information. In other words, the universe could be one vast computational system, and everything we know might be more like a thought than a thing. Think about that. Your phone, this video, the sun, the stars, galaxies, all of it could be the output of a massive cosmic calculation. Not metaphorically but literally. Some scientists even call it the it from bit theory, the idea that information, not matter, is the root of all things. And if that's true, then consciousness, which is also a kind of information processing, may not be a late-stage fluke of evolution. It may be a fundamental part of how the universe works. It may be a feature, not a bug. A central mechanism, not an afterthought. To test this, researchers are designing new experiments, reaching into the deepest corners of the cosmos. They're analyzing the background radiation left over from the Big Bang, hoping to find patterns that might reveal the computational structure of space itself. At the same time, others are building advanced quantum computers, machines so powerful they might simulate consciousness itself. Imagine that, not artificial intelligence but artificial awareness, built from qubits and quantum logic gates. These machines wouldn't just follow orders. They might start experiencing the world in their own unique way, giving us the first experimental glimpse into the inner life of consciousness. But if the universe is conscious, truly conscious, then that fact rewrites everything we thought we knew about our place in it. We're not isolated specks in a cold, silent void. We're not biological accidents floating through a dead cosmos. Instead, we might be expressions of a much larger mind, echoes of a vast awareness that stretches from the quantum realm to the edges of spacetime. And if that's true, then we're not alone in the universe, not because of aliens but because the universe itself might be alive and we are inside it. This is not a new idea. Ancient cultures believed it for thousands of years. To them, consciousness wasn't confined to humans. It lived in rivers, mountains, stars, and sky. Everything had a spirit. Everything was alive. For a long time, modern science dismissed those beliefs as superstition. But now the pendulum is swinging back, not toward mysticism but toward mathematics. Because as our understanding of the universe deepens, we're finding that those old myths may have held a grain of truth. The mind may not be limited to brains. It may be baked into the fabric of reality itself. The theory has a name, panpsychism. It proposes that consciousness is a fundamental feature of the universe, like mass or charge. It doesn't mean that rocks and atoms are thinking like we do. It just means they might possess a tiny sliver of awareness, a proto-consciousness. And as matter becomes more organized, in molecules, in cells, in brains, that sliver expands, becomes richer, deeper, more complex. What we call human consciousness might just be one level of that hierarchy. An advanced form of the same basic awareness that exists everywhere. Some of the world's top thinkers are starting to take this idea seriously. Leading physicists, neuroscientists, and philosophers are exploring the possibility that the brain doesn't create consciousness, it channels it. The brain might be like a radio picking up a signal that's already out there. That would explain some of the strange phenomena we can't account for, like near-death experiences, inexplicable memories, or sudden moments of insight. It would also mean that consciousness isn't destroyed when the brain dies. The receiver goes silent, but the signal remains, echoing across the universe, waiting for another chance to be heard. If that's true, then evolution also takes on a whole new meaning. We usually think of evolution as a random process, genes mutating, organisms competing, survival of the fittest. But if consciousness is fundamental, then maybe evolution isn't just about survival. Maybe it's about the universe trying to become more aware of itself, using matter to build increasingly complex minds, to look back at itself, to ask questions, to wonder, to explore. So then we're not accidents. We're agents. We are what the universe uses to know itself, living, breathing, thinking pieces of a larger puzzle. This doesn't mean that every atom is out there having deep thoughts about love, art, or the meaning of life. But just like heat exists in degrees, from ice cold to boiling hot, consciousness might also exist in degrees. A thermostat might have the barest flicker. A worm a little more. A human being far more still. And what about the universe as a whole? With all its galaxies, black holes, dark matter, and quantum fields? Could that whole system, taken together, possess some vast, incomprehensible form of awareness? Not human. Not even alien. Just cosmic. Scientists are now trying to put these ideas to the test. They're designing experiments to detect consciousness in quantum systems. They're modeling how complexity emerges in neural networks, ecosystems, and galaxies. They're trying to measure consciousness, not just in humans but in animals, machines, and maybe even in space itself. These aren't fringe theories anymore. They're becoming part of the mainstream, part of a growing movement to redefine what it means to be alive, aware, and part of the universe. But perhaps the most profound implication of all is this. If the universe is conscious, then we're not just in it. We're of it. Through our thoughts, our dreams, our discoveries, the universe is experiencing itself. Every time you fall in love, create a painting, solve a problem, or stare up at the stars and wonder, that may be the universe slowly waking up, stretching its awareness, reaching toward understanding. Do you remember where we began? Billions of neurons lighting up in patterns, forming thoughts, dreams, awareness. That's you. But what if you're also a single neuron in a much bigger brain, the cosmic brain of the universe itself? A node in a vast, interconnected network of awareness? Maybe we're all part of something greater than we ever imagined. Not just a story of life, but a story of awakening. A story of consciousness, flowing from the smallest particles to the edge of time. And now, with every new discovery, the evidence grows. The mathematics aligns. The patterns repeat. The mystery deepens. We may be on the brink of the greatest realization in human history, that consciousness isn't something we have. It's something we are. And it reaches all the way down, and all the way up.